As I was getting out of the shower, I felt as though my whole body felt like it was in a vice. And when I got out, I could barely wrap a thin, lightweight towel around my head. I couldn't even dry off. I went to my bedroom and just laid on the bed, hoping that my headache would go away. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what. I had to call my sister and tell her that I couldn't make it. And she told me, by the sound of my voice, that if I didn't call my husband, she would. So I was lucky enough that I knew how to call. He got home and called 911. And they were there within 5 minutes.
Yeah, when we got to the hospital, they just had her checked out. They said, we have to get rid of her headache. That's the main issue at first. And I said, well, you know, what's causing it? I said, her brother had a brain aneurysm years before. Is it something like that? Well, we got to get rid of the headache first. So then they continued on working with her.
They gave me at least 4 doses of morphine and 2 doses of Dilaudid before my headache was somewhat gone. And so later on in the day, they did a CAT scan, and it didn't show that I had 2 brain aneurysms and that one of them had ruptured. Later on, they released me and gave him a prescription for Furacet and sent me home. So he brought me home, and I never really woke up all night long. The next morning, he woke me up about 8:30 and asked if I still had a headache. And I said yes, I guess, and he brought me back up to the hospital. Seeing where he didn't call 911 to get me there, we sat in a bed in the ER till 12:30, 1 o'clock, because they were short-staffed. And so eventually that day, they got a hold of the neurology department and asked about having a lumbar puncture. And they did one early afternoon, and it showed that I had blood in my spinal column. And then everything happened really fast, and I was airlifted to Boston. And my neurosurgeon told my husband that if it would have taken them another day, then I wouldn't have made it.
Well, leading up to getting to the hospital, the husband recognized the severity of the symptoms, alerted the EMTs. The EMTs understood the severity of it, alerted the hospital. But for us in EMS, part of our role once we get to the hospital, we don't end our job. It's really about patient advocacy. So understanding the pieces that we were able to see at home, and that's a component that the hospital doesn't always get. And by making sure the hospital understands that this was a sudden onset, this wasn't gradual, there's a family history here of brain aneurysm, and being an advocate for our patient, making sure the hospital understands that we are seriously considering brain aneurysm here. Now, we know our advocacy only goes so far, but we really need to make sure that we've communicated all that information well. We've put all of that in our patient care report, so when they get sent to the hospital has all of our objective and subjective findings that suggest brain aneurysm.